Okay, today's daf is Nun Vav. Today's daf is dedicated in honor of Rabbi Freda Cohen by Julie Danan for her courageous and compassionate work as a chaplain and director of pastoral care at White Plains Hospital in Westchester during this pandemic. So kol hakavod for all your hard work. So we're going to start now at the very bottom, actually, of Nun Hey Amud Bet. Amar Rav Shmuel bar Nachmani Amar Rabbi Yonatan. If you remember, he's the one who keeps appearing here, and he's the one who keeps making all these statements that all these people that you think or appear from the verses that they sinned, they didn't actually sin. Although, as we said yesterday, it doesn't really mean they didn't actually sin. It means that they didn't actually sin with the sin that the Torah attributes or the Tanakh attributes to them, but they did somehow do something that because of that, the sin is attributed to them. So now he says, Kol omer b'nei Shmuel chatu eno ela toreh. If you say the sons of Shmuel the Navi, if you say his son sinned, you're making a mistake. Shene'emar. Okay, now you have to read the whole pasuk. A lot of the psukim that are quoted today in the actual text of the Gemara, they're quoted a little bit differently. So we constantly have to move to the side if you have the Torah or on the side to actually read the psukim inside. You see a lot of parentheses and a lot of little footnotes. That's to basically say, oh, for some reason in our printed text, the psukim are not exactly correct. So here it says, Vayihi ka'asher zaken Shmuel. As Shmuel got old, Vayasem et panav shoftim liYisrael. He put his sons in his place as judges. Then the pasuk says about them, V'lo halchu banav b'drachav. I'm going to read the whole verse because it doesn't give you the whole verse in the Gemara. They didn't all go in his way. They didn't go in his ways. These are all words that basically say they went away from the general, like they took bribes, can't find the words, they perverted justice. Okay, so now, so what did they learn from this? But if you look at the beginning of the verse says they didn't go in his ways. So what do they tell you here? Bidrachavu delo halchu, michtanami lo chatu. They weren't as great as Shmuel was, but it doesn't mean that they sinned, right? There's a difference between not going in Shmuel's ways and actually sinning. There's a big, wide range there. Shmuel was an amazing, amazing leader. They were not as good as their father, right? So the first pasuk says, the first part of the verse says, they weren't as good as their father. The next one says all the bad things they did. But what they say is, because it says they weren't as good as their father, it sounds like, and in fact, the Meiri says something interesting. We always have this issue that leaders, it comes up in the Torah, in all of Tanakh, it comes up in life all the time, that leaders, their children don't always go in their ways, right? But what the Meiri says about this is you see that maybe children of leaders have more of a responsibility to go in the ways and that's to live on a higher level than the average person. And they, because they didn't live up to that level of Shmuel, they're actually considered as if they sinned. So let's see what they didn't do that Shmuel did. Elamani Makayim. So now they say, okay, so they didn't sin. But if they didn't sin, what do we do with the second part of that verse? Elamani Makayim, Vayatu acharei abatza. They only quote that one, but they really mean the rest of the verse. Shelo asu k'maseh avihim. Okay, they weren't as great as their father. In what way? Shaya Shmuel tzaddik mechazer b'chol makomot Yisrael v'danotam ba'areihem. Shmuel would go around from city to city judging the people. Shene'amar v'halach midei shana b'shana. It says this in the verse. He would go every year. V'savav Beit El v'hagilgal v'hamitzpeh v'shafatat Yisrael. He would basically travel around and make it easier for the people that they wouldn't have to, first of all, spend money going to judge, and he would basically go around to the people. Okay, now you might think, oh, this is just laziness. They said, well, we're not going to travel around. But it seems they had ulterior motives. They wanted the locals to get business. So they said, if we make everybody come here to judge, well, then the locals will get business. So now it's interesting. This is what it immediately came to my mind. This always goes on in Israel anyway, that certain things you have to do, let's say when you're building a house. So you have to get a big you have to get these big dumpsters, and you have to pay for some sort of company to come and dump it, and get rid of all of it. And there's only about 2 or 3 companies that you can use. Like the Uriah says, the municipality says there's only these 2-3 companies. They're the only ones you can use. And usually it's the brother of someone, or, and it's a little bit of a thing here that they're trying to get business for their relatives. So it sounds like that's what they were doing here. They were trying to increase business for the locals, and that it's kind of like shochad. It's not exactly shochad, because shochad, bribery, is usually, and then certainly, and when we're talking about judges, it's that it affects their judgment in the court. This didn't affect their judgment in the court. It was just they were using their power to be able to increase funds for the locals and not allowing it to be spread around. Kittanai. Now we're going to say, just like we saw yesterday, that there was actually all this line about blank isn't, anyone who says blank sins is mistaken. This is all one opinion, but there's different opinions, and some people think they actually really did do things wrong. So now we're going to see a series of opinions about what they did. This is similar to what we saw yesterday about, there were sometimes lists of what exactly these people did wrong. Rabbi Meir Omer, chelkam sha'alu befihem. They were Leviim. Leviim get the Maaser. So now they say, what they do wrong about getting the Maaser? That's a tenth of everybody's property. So chelkam sha'alu befihem. They went to people and said, give me your Maaser. Okay, now when the judge comes up to you and says, give me your Maaser, you don't really have a choice. And then they were getting the Maaser as opposed to other poor Leviim who couldn't afford it and they weren't getting it. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, now, which by the way has nothing to do with judgment at all, right? It's the weakness of a lot of these is it doesn't really have to do with judgment, but what it does have to do with is that they, what happened? They basically ended up using their power and the fact that they were judges to get other things, which is similar to the previous opinion that we saw. I see Caroline wrote that about Shmuel being an absent father, and maybe that's why it affected his sons and he didn't educate them properly, which is also, right? I didn't say this, right? I always take this as obvious, but one of the reasons why they say that leaders' sons don't go in their ways is because they're often away from home. And in this case, as Caroline points out, he was really away from home because he was traveling all the time, and that they sometimes get neglected. And that's always one of the reasons people say why leaders' sons don't always go, or leaders' children don't always go in their ways. Okay, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Milai hitilu al ba'alei batim. It's not exactly clear what this means. Either they told people, whatever you sell, you have to give us a percentage of, or, which is kind of, that's really sounds like bribery. And then some people say Rabbi Yehuda is really the only real opinion that sounds like they were actually bribing people. Or Rashi says a little differently. He says they would give people their things to sell, and they would say, okay, sell our items. We're going to take a percentage of the profits, like you do, kind of you're a middleman. We'll take a percentage of the profits. And then they had a relationship with these people, and when they would come to court, they would end up taking, right? They would, they would favor them in court because they had this business relationship with them. Okay, so that was a possibility. Rabbi Akiva Omer, Kupai Terasha Maser Natlu Bizra. Now the second two really show that they were doing things really wrong, meaning they were stealing. Okay, either instead of taking a tenth for the Maser, they would make people give them more than a tenth. And Rabbi Yossi Omer Matsanot Natlu Bizra. It's unclear what exactly this means, but Rashi says it means Matnot Kihuna. That you're supposed to give the Zroa, L'chayim, and Keva, parts of the animal. Every time you slaughter an animal, those are supposed to go to the Kohen. Now, they weren't Kohanim, they were Leviim. But they said, oh, we're taking these also, and basically they were stealing. Okay, so in those two cases, it's stealing. The problem is it doesn't really relate to the Betza and the Shochad. But again, Shochad doesn't necessarily mean that it doesn't really relate to the perverting justice. But again, perverting justice is a wide term, and it could be that they were using their power as judges to take bribes from people. Okay, so anyway, we've attributed all these things to them, okay, even though, right, we started off, they weren't really sinners. In the end, we said, well, either you say they really were sinners, or they did something wrong, they used their position, but it wasn't that they were actually perverting justice, but it wasn't really appropriate that they were doing. Amar Shmuel bar Nachmani, Amar B'Yonatan. Kol Omer David Chata Eno Ela Toeh. Here's the most famous of all of them, right? David, we know he slept with Bathsheba. She was married to Uriah Hitti, causes Uriah to be killed. How could you say he didn't sin? Sounds a little bit crazy. So now we're going to see. Shenema, Vayhi David L'chol Drachav Maskil V'Hashem Imo. Okay, it says David. Okay, here's the reason why they're going to assume that he must have not sinned with Bathsheba and actually slept with a married woman, because it says he was l'chol drachav maskil, he was very wise, v'Hashem imo, and God was with him. Now, could it be he did such a horrible sin and God was still with him? How could that possibly be? Ella. So if that's the case, Mani Mekayem, Madua Bazita. Now here comes the words of Natan Navi after he sins with Bathsheba. Madua Bazita et Dvar Hashem la'asot hara. Why did you disgrace the word of God to do bad? Now, notice the wording. We're going to darshan this in a minute. La'asot, to do, as opposed to, why did you bazita dvar Hashem va'asita hara, or vayas hara? It doesn't say that. It says to do evil. Shebikesh la'asot v'lo asa. He wanted to do and sleep with Bathsheba when she was an Eshadish, when she was a married woman, but he didn't actually do it. Amarav. So now Rav is going to say, Rebbe, okay, Rebbe who darshan, Rebbe we're going to see makes a drasha on David, and he justifies David's actions. And why does Rebbe justify David's actions? Well, he's going to say something very interesting. Rebbe da'atimi David, he was from David's descendants. So because he was from his descendants, he wanted to show, oh, David really wasn't such a bad guy. And therefore, right, Darish B'schute to David. He wanted to show that he really didn't do anything wrong. So what did he darshan? Madua bazita et dvar Hashem la'asot hara. Rebbe Omer, mishuneh ha'azo mikol ra'ot shebatorah. This one time it's mentioned differently than all other times. Shekol ra'ot shebatorah, as I said before, ktiv behu vayas. It says he did. V'kan ktiv la'asot. But here it says to do. Shebikesh la'asot v'lo asa. It must be he wanted to, but he didn't actually. Okay, so now we're going to learn the story. What did he do? How is he not guilty actually? So now let's read the psukim of what Natan Navi says to him. So I'll read through the whole pasuk. If you have it on the side, you can read it there. So he says, Madua bazita et dvar Hashem la'asot hara be'enai, et Uriah hachiti kita b'charav. Okay, Uriah, you killed by the sword. Ve'et ishto lakachta l'cha l'isha, and you took his wife to be your wife. And you killed him with the sword of the Ammoni. So there's a few things that are strange in this pasuk. One is going to be that it says you killed him by the sword, and then it says you killed him with the sword of Bnei Ammon. So it seems like you killed him, but the sword of Ammon killed him. What exactly is going on? And we'll see some other things we're gonna darshan here. So what was wrong with that? You should have judged him in the court. What was he being judged for? We're going to see that he was what we call a moreh b'malchut. He went against the king. Okay, we'll see in a minute what he did that went against the king. But even if he went against the king, you as a king shouldn't have judged him. You should have had the Sanhedrin judge him. Now, generally, someone who is a moreh b'malchut can be judged by the king. So why did they say the Sanhedrin should have? Well, that's obvious because David was nogea b'davar, right? He was he was looking to marry Bathsheba, and therefore it wasn't appropriate. Even if a king could generally do it, he shouldn't have done it himself. Et ishto lakachta l'cha l'isha. Here comes where we're going to prove that David didn't actually sleep with her until he married her. They say the words lakachta. Now in the Torah, the word lakach, yichkach. Yichkach means he married. So it says likuchin yesh laba. You actually legitimately, fairly, and squarely married her. To Amar of Shmuel bar Nachmani, Amar Rabbi Yonatan, surprisingly, he's the one who says this, because he's the one who says that David didn't really sin. This is the famous, that what happens, everyone who goes out to war writes a get to their wife, a get conditioned upon, if I die, you'll be divorced from now. Shenemar, how do we know this? Because it says, in a different context relating to David, okay, this is, what's the context? When they were all standing with Goliath and they send David down to his brothers, and the father sends him and says, bring the following things. So he says to him, what are you going to bring when you go to where the war is going on? Okay, bring these to the guy in charge, this cheese. Go find out how your brothers are doing. And take their aruba. So the Gemara says, my arubatam, what is this aruba? Tani Rav Yosef, dvarim ha'me'uravim beino lebeina. Aruba from Lashon aruvim, things that tie people together. Meaning, a get. Bring a get for your brothers, because they realized that a war was about to start. Bring a get for your brothers to bring back to their wives. Okay, so basically, number one, we started off, okay, so David was guilty, not because he slept with Bathsheba, but because he shouldn't have judged Uriah himself. He should have done it in the Sanhedrin. And then we're going to see that Uriah wasn't actually really married to his wife, because if he dies, then, which he did, then his get would have been good from before, which is when David slept with her, she was then already theoretically divorced retroactively. Now, what does this mean? My cherev b'nei Ammon iyatane enashalav, af Uriah Hiti iyatane enashalav. This is fascinating. Just like, what does it mean, the cherev b'nei Ammon? The cherev b'nei Ammon is the sword that kills the Ammonim. Now, when you're in a war with the Ammonim, you're allowed to kill them. You don't get punished in court if you killed someone in war. So likewise, obviously, if you kill them in the right manner, right, there are ways where you could get punished. But likewise, you're not going to get punished for killing Uriah Hiti, meaning it was okay what David did. My time, what's the reason? Moreh b'malchut hava. I told you we get back to this. He went against the king. He was a moreh b'malchut. Why? Okay, there's this scene that happens where David says, go back and sleep with your wife. And he says, I can't go back because all these people are Paneh Sadeh, and I'm going to go back to my wife. So it says here, Adoni Yoav Avdei Adoni. Notice he puts Yoav in the same category as David. They're both called Adoni. Okay? So that's why he was Moreh b'malchut. Tosfos has this different answer. If you want, you can look there. He says it can't be, that's not really Moreh b'malchut, just because he gave Yoav the same respect as the king. But anyway, that's how some people understand it, right? It's obviously a bit of a kvetch to say that he was a Moreh b'malchut, but the Gemara tries to come up with, right, they say some reason that he must have been Moreh b'malchut. Again, they're trying to justify David's actions. It's interesting. Here they're saying basically he was right. It was just he went about it in the wrong way. Should have had the Sanhedrin do it and not done it himself. And this is, again, this is all about things that are expected of leaders, right? You have to, when you're a leader, you have to be smart and not do what David did, which is basically sentence someone to death and then, right, take his wife. That's not really so appropriate. Amar Rav, ki ma'ayenet be David, okay, comes Rav and he says the following now. Now we're going to get onto a whole other thing about David. When you look into David and what he did in his life, the only one thing he did wrong was Uriah. Okay, again, whether you view how wrong it was what he did, but that was the only thing he did wrong. How do we know this? Because it says it in the Psukim. Dichtiv, Rak bidvar Uriah Hiti. Okay, I'll read you the whole Pasuk. It says, this is Asher Asad David et hayashar be'enei Hashem. He always did the right thing in the eyes of God. The losar mikol asher tziva ukol yimei chayav. He didn't deter from anything that God said all the days of his life. Rak bidvar Uriah Hiti, only as it associates with Uriah. So comes Rav and he explains that literally, and therefore you see that was the only thing he did wrong. Again, he doesn't really get into what exactly was wrong about what he did here, but he quoted before, if you remember, Rav quoted Rebbe, who tried to say that David wasn't always so bad. So now we say, but there's a problem with what Rav just said. Rav just said the only thing he did wrong in his life was Uriah. But Abaye Kashisha Rami de Rav Adeva. He says, wait a minute. There's a contradiction. Rav contradicts himself. Why? Mi amar Rav Hachi. Did Rav really say this? Bahama Rav Kibel David Lashon Hara. He also accepted Lashon Hara. And that was something David did wrong. And Rav himself says that. And the Gemara, in fact, says, Kasha. This is, in fact, difficult. Okay? I see that Carolyn wrote that she's always struggled with David, and do the rabbis consider his relationship with Bathsheba to be rape? Because this isn't a shir and Navi, and we want to get through the daf, so I'm not going to get into the whole thing about Bathsheba and what exactly happened. What's important here to note is really the rabbi's perspective on it and what they're trying to do. Again, you can view this, if you take this out of context and you say, oh, look, the rabbis are saying he really didn't do something terribly wrong with her. It wasn't rape, let's say. It wasn't that she was married. It wasn't this, etc. But again, I think you have to really view this context within the sugya within the context. And what the Gemara is doing is they're bringing examples to try to show that you have to be careful of what, if you're a leader, you have to be careful how you behave and what you do. And you have to maybe keep yourself on a higher level to be more cautious of the effects of your actions on others. And this whole sugya is really trying to show, remember where we started, sins can be attributed to you even if you didn't actually do them. And whether they really mean that David really didn't do anything is a whole separate question. But again, I think what they're trying to get at is there's implications to all your actions. Like David, yes, maybe it was okay technically, according to the letter of the law, what he did, because maybe there really was a get, and maybe this and maybe that. But still, it wasn't appropriate, right? And that's what he did was wrong. There was something not right about it. Maybe it wasn't as bad as it looks, but he didn't do things in the right way, and he should have had the Sanhedrin deal with Uriah, and he should have waited till, there's a whole long list of things he should have done in a better way, and that's what's going on here. Now, again, you could get into the whole story, and that would be more a shir on Shmuel, Sefer Shmuel, and there, we deal with all those things. But here we're kind of trying to figure out what this is doing in the context, and that's why, again, in the Daf Yomi, we don't have enough time to get into all that. But I think here they're taking a very limited view of the story because they have a specific message they want to get across, and that's the message that pervades throughout this. Number one, focusing on leaders, like if you take the Bnei Shmuel case, and also the implications of all your actions, that small things you do that are wrong could really be viewed as much bigger things, and that you have to, be careful what you do because that has effects on other people and other things. Okay, let's move on now. So now we're going to have a whole story about Siva. I don't know if you remembered Siva, but Siva was the Eved of Mephibosheth. Mephibosheth was the son of Yonatan, who was the son of Shaul. And if you remember, David, right, didn't have such an easy relationship with Shaul, but he did have a very good relationship with Yonatan. And when he becomes king, he wants to basically help the descendants that are left of the house of Shaul. So here it says, so basically, we're now going to talk about Rav Amar Kibel David Lashon Hara, Dichtiv. Vayomer lo hamelech efohu. So first he asks Siva who's left from the family of David, and Shaul, and he says Mephibosheth. So he says, where is Mephibosheth? Vayomer Siva lamelech hinehu. This is where he is. Beit Machir ben Amiel below Davar. He's in the house of Machir ben Amiel in Lo Davar, in this place called Lo Davar. But what he's really saying is below Davar. This is a guy who's got nothing. Like he's a nothing guy. Okay, that's his lashon hara. Uchtiv. Now look at the response of David. Vayishlach hamelech vayikacheu mibeit Machir ben Amiel. So he goes and he brings Mephibosheth milo davar. Instead of saying below davar, he says milo davar. Now, technically speaking, that would be the right thing to say. If the name of the place was Lo Davar, then it would be he is in below davar, and he took him from Lo Davar. But the Gemara likes to darshan these things, and what do they say? He said he was below davar. David HaMelech didn't accept the Lashon Hara, and he said he's malei davar. He's full of good things. In other words, I see him in the other way that you see him, and I think he's full of good things. So at this point, David doesn't listen to Siva when Siva tries to say bad things about Mephibosheth. But now we're going to see that later he does. Michti chazi de shikrahu. Now that he sees that Siva's a liar, and he says these not nice things about Mephibosheth, he hadar ashani lave, when he later tells Lashon Hara about him later in the Sefer Shmuel, my time at Kiblemine. Why does he then accept it later? Now we're going to have to see what's the whole story there. We're going to read a lot of Pesukim. Tichti, okay, as it says in the Pasuk, Vayomer HaMelech, we're jumping, that was in Perek Tet of Shmuel Bet, now we're jumping to Perek Tet Zayin. Vayomer HaMelech, okay, now we're already after the rebellion of Avshalom. When Avshalom rebelled, David leaves Jerusalem for a little while, and Mephibosheth, now what happened was David basically said, Mephibosheth, you're going to eat at our table every day. You're going to be a Bambayit, and I'm going to take care of you. Mephibosheth was also lame. So he basically takes care of him all his life, and then when he leaves Jerusalem, when Avshalom comes in to rebel, Mephibosheth stays in Jerusalem. Okay, now why does he stay in Jerusalem? It's unclear. So, Vayomer HaMelech, Vayeh ben Adonecha, he says, when he comes back to Jerusalem, he says, where's Mephibosheth? Vayomer Tziva HaMelech, Hinei Yoshev b'Yerushalayim, he's still sitting in Jerusalem, Ki Amar, Hayom Yashivu li Beit Yisrael et Mamlechut Avi. He stayed there the whole time because he thought, here's my opportunity. I'm going to get the kingship back in my family. Which basically means that was the Lashon Hara that Siva said he wanted to rebel against you. Okay, so now, going back to the Gemara. So Vayomer HaMelech, Hinei Yoshev b'Yerushalayim, right? I read you the whole pasuk because it doesn't tell you everything. So now we say, we're now 7 lines from the bottom. How do you know that David accepted this Lashon Hara? Dichtiv, because it says, Vayomer HaMelech, Hinei na kol asher leMephibosheth. He says to Tziva, I'm going to give you everything that I was going to give to Mephibosheth. Vayomer Tziva ishtachaveti emsachin be'enecha HaMelech. Okay, that's so nice, thank you. Okay, so there you see, he obviously believed him because he basically cuts off Mephibosheth. So that's Rav's approach. Rav's approach is very simple. he said that negative thing about Siva says about Mephibosheth. In the beginning, David didn't accept it, but when he sees that he didn't leave Yerushalayim with him, and then Siva tells him, well, he wanted to rebel against you. I guess at that point also David is much more suspicious about people rebelling against him after Absalom tries to rebel. He basically believes him, and because of that, he cuts off Mephibosheth. Shmuel has a bit of a different approach. Shmuel Amar, and by the way, that's where we were stuck because Rav said he accepted Lashon Hara versus Rav said before he didn't do anything else wrong other than Uriah Chiti. Shmuel Amar, Lo Kibel David Lashon Hara. Shmuel doesn't think that he really listened to Tziva. So if that's the case, why does he cut off Mephibosheth? He saw it with his own eyes. Okay, now where did he see it with his own eyes? We're going to jump ahead 3 prakim, okay, which is interesting because it's not exactly according to order. But three prakim later, in Perek Yud Tet, there's another interaction with Mephibosheth. Dichti. Mephibosheth ben Shaul Yarad. I just want to read the whole pasuk because it doesn't say it right here. Mephibosheth ben Shaul Yarad Lekrat HaMelech. Okay, that whole scene happened when David was outside Jerusalem. Okay, and that's where he said, where's Mephibosheth? He said, oh, he's still in Jerusalem. The guy explained it a little wrong before. But that was all outside of Jerusalem. Now when he comes back to Jerusalem, it says, Mephibosheth came Lekrat HaMelech, v'lo asa raglav, v'lo asa sfamo, v'gadav lo chibes, l'minayom lechet HaMelech ad hayom asher ba b'shalom. He basically looks like a wreck, okay? Looks like he's in Avelut. Now, why would he be in Avelut? So David looks and he says, he must be in Avelut because he was mourning because he wanted to be the king, and he's not, and he's upset that I'm coming back. So there you see, David starts to see in Mephibosheth that something's not right, and by the end of the story, we're going to see where it becomes very clear that Mephibosheth really wasn't on David's side, and he was all in it. In the end, we're going to see for the money. So what happens? He approaches him and says, why didn't you stay with me? He says, Adoni HaMelech, Avdi Rimani, Tziva, my Eved, tricked me. Ki Amar Avdecha, he said, I'm going to go get my donkey ready, and I'm going to go with the king. In other words, I am lame. I can't get there by myself. And he went off and left me by myself, and I basically couldn't get there. I'm lame. What were you expecting me to do? I was stuck in Jerusalem. I had no choice. He says, and not only that, but then Siva, my Eved, lied to you. He told Lashon Hara about me, which wasn't true. And you are like a malach. Do what you think is right. This is like a good, puts him up there. He says, listen, right? He uses all the words that, I'm lame, I'm handicapped, don't go against me. And you're an angel. You do what you think is right. So David's a little bit stuck. He hears the Lashon Hara that Siva said. He sees Mephibosheth was still in the city. He doesn't know exactly what to make of it. But anyway, and Mephibosheth tries to give him this excuse. So what does he do? Enough of your talk. You're getting me annoyed. I don't want to hear anymore. I'm going to give it to you guys 50-50. Okay, instead of giving it all to Tziva, like you said 3 prakim ago, I'll split it 50-50 because I don't really know what the truth is. So now here's Mephibosheth's reaction. And from here you can see that he was really all in it for money. He says, just let him take it all. He's very upset, right? That's the way we generally get. We're upset. Oh, I don't want any of it. Very upset. Okay, so now he says, because on account of the fact that Adoni HaMelech came b'shalom el beito. So now, what's he really saying? They explain this. Amar lo, ani amarti matai tavo b'shalom. I was sitting there just waiting. When are you going to come home in peace? Meaning, I've been waiting for you to be all this time. I'm on your side. I've been on your side the whole time. And this is what you do to me? And here they darshan, lo alecha yesh li taromot, ela al mi she'haviacha b'shalom. They darshan this word, asher ba Adoni HaMelech b'shalom. Number 1, I've been waiting for you the whole time to come home peacefully. And number 2, I'm not upset with you. I'm upset with God. Okay? Basically, he gets so upset that he doesn't get all the money that he basically goes against God. And he says, I don't believe in God anymore. Or, I'm upset with God. Takes the case on with God. And that's where it becomes clear that he was really just in it for the money and he wasn't really on David's side. And David understands that Siva was right all along, and he, and then he acted based on his, what he saw in Siva. Both in the beginning of the story, we saw that he saw something in Siva that didn't look right, and later on, particularly now at the end. How do we know that he took up a taromet with God? So, Hainu Tichtiv Uben Yonatam Meriv Baal. It said about him that his name is Meriv Baal. Now, Meriv Baal Shmo, that wasn't his name. Halo Mephibosheth Shmo. We know his name was Mephibosheth. Because he had a fight with God and basically said these not nice things about God, Yatzta Bat Kol Va'amralo, the Bat Kol came down and called him Natsa Bar Natsa. You're a person who takes account with God, the son of someone else who took account with God. So, Natsa Hadamaram, where did he take account with God? We already just explained that. Bar Natsa Dichtiv Vayavo Shaul Ad Ir Amalek Vayarev Banacham. Now, when Shaul fights against the Amalekim, we know what did he do? He claimed, why should I kill the Ktanim, right? He had Rachmanut on Agag, and it says Vayarev Banacham. Amarabi, Rebbe says, Mane al Iske Nachal. I'm sorry, Mane, what is this? Where did he have an account? Al Iske Nachal. Things having to do with a Nachal. Okay, a Nachal is a stream. What does that have to do with anything? So Rashi explains that there's a law called Egla Arufa, if you're familiar from the Torah, which basically says if somebody dies in the middle of two cities and we don't know who killed him, we break the neck of an Egel, and we do this whole thing. And that's because, right, Rashi says, Amra Torah have Egla Arufa banachal, and you do it by nachal etam, you do it by a stream. Nefashot halalu alacha kama v'kama. In other words, I missed the beginning of Rashi. If only one person dies for no reason, we do this. All the more so if we're going to kill all these people. He says, I don't understand why we're killing the Tanim. So this is a case where basically he goes against God, and he says, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know why you're telling me to kill all the children. They're innocent, and we shouldn't kill them. So what do you see here? You see that Shaul went against God, and Mephibosheth goes against God. Amar Rav Yehuda Amarav, b'sha'ah she'amar David leMephibosheth. Okay, now that was all an aside. We got off on this aside about how David, we have Rav who said David accepted Lashon Hara. We had Shmuel who said he didn't accept Lashon Hara. He made an independent decision. But we're going to now go back to Rav, who thought that really he did Lashon Hara. And he accepted Lashon Hara. And here comes again, this goes into the, here we're going to say it in a very exaggerated way. We've been talking all along about the implications of your actions. Here comes a big one. So Rav Yehuda says in the name of Rav, when he says that, which basically means he accepted the Lashon Hara that Siva said about him, heavenly voice came down and said, there's going to be a split in the kingdom, right? This is very clear. We all know the connection between Lashon Hara and splitting people up, right? That by speaking badly about other people, it causes a lot of difficult interactions between people. It causes people to not be friends with others. It causes all sorts of things. And here we're going to say it caused the split of the kingdoms. Now, why is the split of the kingdom so terrible? We're going to see another statement. He says, Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav, we're now in the third wide line. Ilmale lo kibel David lashon hara lo nechlaka malchut beit David v'lo avdu Yisrael avodah zara v'lo galinu me'artzenu. Okay, it was the split that caused, right? This caused that, that caused that. So David accepting lashon hara caused the split in the melucha. The split in the melucha caused Yeravam to put up these eglei zahav in the mikdash that he made, and that caused the Jews to worship avodah zara. And from there, that caused the ultimate galut and being exiled from our land. So look how severe just accepting Lashon Hara is. It's funny, we started with the whole David and Bathsheba as if that was a terrible thing, and now they're basically saying this Lashon Hara he did was maybe even worse because it had catastrophic consequences. Okay, moving on to the next one. Amar Rav Shmuel bar Nachmani, Amar Rabbi Yonatan, Kol Omer Shlomo Chata Eino Ela Toeh. If you say that Shlomo sinned, you're mistaken. Shneimar, V'lo Haya Levavo Shalem Im Hashem Elokav Kilevav David Aviv. This is interesting. It's a negative pasuk. As opposed to David, we said, it said Hashem Imo, how could he possibly have sinned? Here we're going to say, well, his heart wasn't fully with God the way his father's was, but what does that sound like? Kilevav David Aviv hu delo haba. Well, he wasn't as great as his father. This sounds a little like Shmuel and his sons. But nechtanami lo chata, but it means he wasn't as good as his father, but doesn't mean he sinned. El mani makayim. So now what do we do with this other verse, which basically says he sinned? Remember, he married all these women, and he married Bat Paro specifically. We're going to see the daughter of Paro, and his wives basically turned his heart away from God. So how can you say that seems to be opposites? So Hayike Rabbi Natan, we're going to understand it the same way Rabbi Natan did, and now we're going to see that Rabbi Natan had the same problem. To Rabbi Natan, Rabbi Ktiv, this is just going to be repetitive of what we just said. Right? It says one and it says the other. Right? On the one hand, it says they turned his heart away from God. On the other hand, his heart wasn't with like David was, but it sounds like he was close. So Hachi Kamar. This is what it says. Again, what did they say? They tried to turn his heart away, but he didn't actually go that way. Okay? So then they say, wait a minute. But it says he did. Haktiv az yivneh Shlomo bama lichmosh shakutz Moab. Doesn't it say that Shlomo built a mizbeach for shkutz, for kmush, which was the shakutz, like what do you say, the despicable thing of Moab? In other words, their gods. So how do we explain it? Just like we did with David, Lasot, we said was he wanted to but didn't. Shebi kesh livnot v'lo bana. He wanted to build it, but he didn't actually build it. Elameata, but from here you get, if we're going to say, now this is not the same. There we darshan la'asot. La'asot versus vayas. But here it says yivneh. Now yivneh is also a little weird. It didn't say az bana, he built. Az yivneh, he will build. So how do we explain this? Well, we say yivneh also must mean he wanted to but didn't. And now the Gemara says that doesn't make sense. Because elameata az yivneh Yoshua mizbeach l'Hashem. It says that Yehoshua also yivneh, he will build, which really doesn't mean yivneh. It means he built a mizbeach. Should be case of no, but you're going to say Yehoshua, when he got into the land, he didn't build a mizbeach. We all know he built a mizbeach. Ela dibana, therefore, yivneh means past, even though it sounds like future, it really means past. Hachanami dibana, it must be he actually really built a mizbeach. So how can we explain this? So again, it sounds like Shlomo really did build a mizbeach for Avodah Zarah. Kiditanya. So now that you say Ela Kiditanya, it's the way it appears in the following bright. Rabbi Yossi Omer, Ve'et habamot asher al pnei Yerushalayim. Now we're jumping forward. End of Sefer Melachim. Comes Yoshiyahu. He was a young king. I'll give you a little history because also we're going to talk about him later. He was 8 when he became king. When he was 18, he finds the Sefer Torah and he realizes they've been doing all these things wrong. And he does a huge reform and he gets rid of all the Avodah Zarah in the land and all that. So listed there in the Avodah Zarah he gets rid of is Ve'et habamot asher al pnei Yerushalayim asher miyamin lahar mishcha asher bana. So he gets rid of the bamot that are opposite Yerushalayim to the right of the har mishcha. Asher bana Shlomo melech Yisrael ashtarot shkut sidonim b'chulei. All these things that Shlomo built for all these Avodah Zarah idols. Now, there's a problem with this pasuk. What's the problem with this pasuk? Remember, we're trying to show that Shlomo really didn't build them. So the problem with this pasuk is that Yoshiyahu wasn't the first to do a reform in the time of Bayit Sheni after Shlomo was dead. Efshar ba Asa v'lo b'yarum. Asa also came and got rid of all the Avodah Zarah before his time. Yehoshaphat also did the same thing. V'lo b'yaram. How could it be that these kings came before him? They wiped out all the Avodah Zarah that was before them. So how could it be that Yoshiyahu came and got rid of everything from the time of Shlomo when all these kings before him, these 2 kings, had already wiped everything out? So therefore, how do they understand this pasuk? You're right. Ad Sheba Yoshiyahu b'Aram. It doesn't make any sense. All the idols that were in Israel, Asa b'Yehoshaphat b'Yahum, they already destroyed them. So here comes our answer. So now we're going to say, in this pasuk, we talk about Achronim, which is Yoshiyahu, and we talk about Shlomo, which is the Rishonim, and what he built. Ma Achronim lo asu v'tala behen l'shvach. Now we say, this is again, all about consequences. Everything comes back to that. Yoshiyahu didn't actually destroy everything from the time of Shlomo. They were already destroyed by Asa, and then whatever was after Asa was destroyed by Yehoshaphat, and then whatever was from Yehoshaphat, that's what he destroyed. But he gets rewarded as if he destroyed everything from the time of Shlomo, because when you do something great, then you get more attributed to you than you actually do. And likewise, Af Rishonim, Just like that, Shlomo lo asa v'tala behen l'gnan. He didn't actually build them, but they're attributed to him. And why is that? We're going to see. So now they say, wait, you can't really say that Shlomo didn't build these. Again, it says Shlomo did evil in the eyes of God. So he must have done it. Again, the same mantra we keep saying. He should have stopped his wives from worshiping idols, and he didn't. And because of that, it gets attributed to him. Therefore, it's as if he sinned. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel, Noach lo laoto tzadik shehe shamash ledavar acher va'al yichtov bo vayas hara bein Hashem. This is a fascinating line. It says what he did was so bad, the fact that he didn't stop his wives, it's worse than if he had just been a worker in the Avodah Zarah temple. Like better he be a wood chopper or something in an Avodah Zarah temple rather than have this verse said about you that vayas hara bein Hashem. Like that's the absolute worst that you could get. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel, also Shmuel says, B'sha'ah shenasa Shlomo et bat Paro, hechnisa lo elef minei zemer. Okay, now we're going to talk about all these things. At that moment, it was the turning point. When Shlomo married bat Paro, what happened? She brought in 1,000 different types of instruments, musical instruments. But Amralo, and she explained to him, Kach osim la'avodah zarah plonit, v'kach osim la'avodah zarah plonit. This is what we do for this God, and this is what we do for this God. V'lo michaba. And he didn't stop her. He didn't say anything bad to her at all. He didn't, protest. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel, another statement by Shmuel, V'sha'ah shenasa Shlomo et bat Paro. At that moment, now here we're going to see why this was the turning point. Yarad Gabriel, we keep going back to these angels. V'na'atz kaneh bayam, he put a reed in the ocean, va'alab, or in the sea, va'alabo sirton, all of a sudden a big sand pile arose. Basically, Rome was created at that moment. Okay, right? This is like a simplistic view of how the world was created. And Rome was created. Basically, what he's trying to say is the enemy of the Jewish people, right? The basic main enemy of the Jewish people, especially in the time of the Gemara with the Romans. And and they caused the Churban Abayit, and they caused all sorts of things. They're the thorn in our side. That was all created at that moment. But right, it all turned bad. B'manita Tana, in a Braita, it says, Oto hayom shechnis Yeravam shnei eglei zahav, echad bebeit el, echad b'dan. Here's another turning point, which we mentioned earlier, when Yeravam put the shnei eglei zahav, that when he put these two, right, calves, these golden calves, one in Beit El, one in Dan, nivnet sarif echad v'zeu Italia shel Yavan. And this is Italy of Greece. What they seem to mean, the Quran has a footnote that says what they really mean is the southern part of Italy, which was owned by the Greeks at that point. So that all happened then, and basically that was that basically caused all our future problems. Whether it's the Greeks, the Romans, they're our arch enemies, and it all happened from. And basically, it's taking all this sugyot that we just learned about David and Shlomo, basically saying, David caused the Pilug HaMelucha, the split, which caused the Greeks, and Shlomo from marrying bat Paro caused the Romans. And, had our leaders not made, and if we talk about consequences of our actions, those really have far-reaching consequences. Okay, Amar, last one for today, and with this we'll finish the parak, and then tomorrow we'll start the parak of Isha Yotza, about women. I promise you we'll get to the jewelry and all that. Amar Shmuel bar Nachmani, Amar B'Yonatan. Kol Omer Yoshiyahu Chata Eino Ela Toeh. So as I said, Yoshiyahu was 8, he becomes king, and then at 18 he finds his Torah and he does a reformation. Now, why do you say we think he sinned? Well, it says, so first of all, it can't be he sinned because it says he went exactly in the way of David. We know David sinned a little, but sounds like in the good things about David. Ela, mani makayim, what's the problem? There's a pasuk that says, "V'kamohu lo haya lefanav melech asher shav." Okay, the whole pasuk is melech asher shav el Hashem. There was no king who did repentance. B'chol levavo, with all his heart, b'chol nafsho, right, like Kriyat Shema, with all his soul, u'b'chol ma'odom, with all his money, k'chol Torah Moshe. Okay, v'acharav lo kam kamo. There was no one like him who did tshuva in such an intense manner. Well, if you're going to do tshuva in such an intense manner, it must have been he did something very wrong. Okay, that's their assumption. So, what could it be? Shekol din shedam miben shmona ad shmona asrei hichziran lahem. He basically went back. What does it mean he did such a big tshuva? Well, he went back and all the cases that he had judged from age 8, he basically returned the money to whenever there was a mistake. When he found the Torah, he realized he made all these mistakes in judgment. So he redid them basically. Shema Tomar Natan Lizev and Natan Lizev. Let's say two of you were in an argument, and I said that you should win. So what do you think? Do you think he took the money and I was wrong? So you think I took the money from you and gave it to the other person? No. What did he do that was so great? Talmud Lamar B'chol Ma'odo, with all his money. How did he return to God with all his money? Shenatan Mishalom. He basically paid everyone back from his own out of pocket for all his mistakes. Okay, that's one approach. One approach is that was the only thing he did wrong. He didn't really do anything wrong. He just made some mistakes in judgment, and when he repented, he basically redid everything he had done wrong. Can you imagine going back and checking all the cases and redoing everything? It sounds a bit extreme. Upliga de Rav. Okay, but this disagrees with Rav. De Amar Rav. Ein lecha gadol b'balei tshuva yoter miYoshiyahu b'doro ve'echa b'doreinu. He really did something seriously wrong. Okay, it must have been promiscuity, and because they say, right, he was the greatest Baal Tshuva that there is. Umanu, and who is that? Abba Avod. Who else is there by Dorenu? Abba Avod Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba. Va'amar la acha Avod Abba Avod Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba. It was one of two brothers. Tamar Mar Rabbi Abba va'acha Achi Havu. They were brothers. So it was one of the two brothers did something terribly wrong and did tshuva. Rav Yosef. It's interesting. They don't tell us any detail here. Rav Yosef Orecha b'Dorenu, and there's one more in our generation. There's even one more now. Umanu, because he lived a little bit later. Manu Ukvan bar Nechemya. Remember Mar Ukva, who was the Ab Beit Din, and right, we're going to see here, it says he was the Reish Galuta. V'hainu Natan de Tzutzita. He's called Natan de Tzutzita. Okay, so Rashi says either Mitzutzim de Nur Shamalach Pashat et Yado. In other words, an angel came and basically with sparks and brought him back. Or some people say it was his tzitzit were flying and he achazo malach b'tzitzit rosho. He grabbed him with the tzitzit on his head or something. Amar Rav Yosef Habi Yativna b'Pirka. I was learning v'hava kamanamnim and I fell asleep. When I dreamed this dream about the malach coming and pulling him out. He was about to sleep with this woman, and an angel came, pulled him, and that was like the greatest maaseh of tshuva. And with that, Hadran alach b'nei behema. We finish the parak, and we'll move on tomorrow to the new parak. Okay, so again, in our minds, communal responsibility toward others, leadership, and the responsibility of leaders, etc.
Thank you, Shabbat.